Hi, I'm Bill Rubenstein, your SAT expert for Professor.com.
The rules of the main writing section, or sections, are easy. Either you're spotting errors, picking the best version of a sentence, or making a paragraph work the best it can. Where the fun lies here is in the myriad ways the English language can be abused. So a good way to prep for this section is to run through a bunch of sentences that exhibit the kind of language errors likely to appear, so that you start to sensitize yourself. You'll be like a policeman trained to walk through the crowds of holiday shoppers, alert to the subtlest hint that a crime may be about to take place. The prize goes to the one who spots the crime and doesn't leave the scene until order has been restored. Ready to follow along? In a minute, I'm going to read you a series of sentences. In most cases, you'll understand what the writer's trying to say. But if you listen carefully, you'll realize that the only reason you do understand is that you yourself have done a little extra work to interpret the intended meaning. We can do this because in speech we make mistakes all the time. It's part of the fun of being human. We cannot and never will be able to train ourselves to speak in final drafts. Of course, when we do speak, we have all kinds of other tools we use to get our point across, like vocal tone, or facial expression, or if you live in Italy, wild and vivid gestures so expressive you wonder why they do them and yell at the same time. But what happens if you, or the Italian, isn't there to whisper, to wail, to flail, to hector? You have to do it with just the written word. Well, you better put the words down in the most coherent manner possible, because expressions like, it's so, I'm really like, oh, that's so Jennifer, they just don't sound the same when you don't hear them spoken by a pretty girl from Sherman Oaks, That's why there are two languages inside of every person's, or at least every educated person's world. The language of speech and the language of the written word. When we write, we're expected to correct our speech and make it as clear as possible. Because after all, you know how bored you are when teachers ask you to read other people's stuff, right? I mean, Shakespeare. Why wouldn't you expect other people to be bored when they have to read what you write? And not only bored, but how about confused? No offense, but most American teenagers can't complete a coherent thought, much less an intelligent paragraph. Add to that problem the additional complication of sentences that aren't clear, and you can see why, if you're not the solution to the problem, dude, you are the problem. Ouch, that hurts. So before we do any more damage to ourselves, let's go straight to our sentences. Listen carefully, and hopefully you'll start to understand. If not, there's always start car racing. And what's wrong with that? Nothing if you win and don't get killed. Now here's a sentence I took straight off the radio. More information about the death of a Hawthorne woman and her attacker. They both died, did they, or didn't they? Did you hear it? It wasn't clear who died, or for that matter, about whom we're going to get more information. Oh, it's obvious. The attacker didn't die, did he? Probably not. But imagine this scenario. You're working for a Spanish language newspaper and you have to translate that little headline. Wouldn't you rather be certain you knew what it meant before you translated it? That's the point of all this. If our language isn't as clear as it can be, sooner or later, meaning breaks down. Okay, so you get the point. Here's some more examples. If you sign up today, you will receive 4 more books in the course of a year that I have selected for you. Which year was that you selected for me? That, by the way, was from NPR, where they're supposed to know better. Driving down the highway, the waterfall was as beautiful as we expected it to be. Interesting. I didn't know waterfalls could drive. Your student called to inform you that due to the death of his uncle, he will not be coming to class today. Well, as the uncle hadn't been registered for the class, I wasn't expecting him. I hope the student makes it, though, otherwise he'll flunk the course. I guess it was thought that I was too lazy and unmotivated to run for Congress. I guess it was thought you were too lazy and unmotivated to make yourself the active subject of a sentence. The specific intention of his composition is the writing of beautiful melodies. Ouch. Enough. Stop. No, I think I'll go on. In a market of ever-advancing technology, exciting products, and the ability to speak to anybody whenever you want, it's no wonder the consumer is king. Or, her love of animals is inconsistent to her treatment of the pony she was riding last week. Or how about this one? Observation of millions of stars reveal that red giants are not nearly as rare as was once believed. Once believed isn't as rare as it used to be. When one really wants something as much as life itself, you will do anything to get it, even if you have to push someone out of the way in order to get it. The family always used to vacation together, going every year to the same beach, dining every night in the same restaurant, and they will eat apple pie for dessert. Cooking, hunting, being able to find wood for the fire would sound better as cooking, hunting, and finding wood, wouldn't it? Here's another example of faulty parallelism. Staying safe on the mountain requires physical training, mental preparation, and the ability to read a map. How about physical training, mental preparation, and map reading ability? Add another comparison of two unlike things. The novels of Ernest Hemingway, adventures that defined manhood for an entire generation, were on a par with Steve Irwin, known as the Crocodile Hunter. Steve Irwin was like many things, but he was never, ever like a novel by Hemingway or anyone else. Standing under the pounding rain, her crying was barely noticeable because of the thunder and lightning. What was the subject of that sentence? The thing that's acting on the verb. That's what the subject is. For those of you planning a career chasing stray lizards out of eraser factories, the answer is her crying. And the last time I heard crying, it didn't stand anywhere, especially under the rain. There was a lack of responsibility by the individual in charge. Yeah? Or did you mean the individual didn't take responsibility? Okay, now we know who to sue. Take everything he's got. Oh, but you can't. You couldn't understand the contract. And you signed away your rights. Students, you should have learned to read before you signed that contract. Reading and writing. If you can't do them for yourself, somebody else is going to do it for you. Hi, I'm Bill Rubenstein, your SAT expert for Professorit.com.